So let's talk about the three factors that put someone at the greatest risk of suicide. Because when you understand these three factors, you can effectively intervene. The three factors are extreme distress, isolation, and a shift in belief. So, extreme distress doesn't have to be job loss, a death in the family, divorce. It doesn't have to be something big and huge. It can be having a heated argument with someone that you care about, showing up late for an appointment. Could be anticipating the anniversary of a difficult day or even the anticipation of exams, papers being due. So, how do we know if someone's going through extreme distress, if it could be something big or small? The way we know is that this individual begins to fixate on a problem or everything becomes a problem. You see, I didn't know this before my dad died. If I had, I would have recognized that the reason he was constantly talking about the fact that he got a bad haircut was because he was in distress, not really because he got a bad haircut. It had been the same my entire life. Now, when we look at isolation, I want you to think about the fact that we've all been through isolation after going through COVID, but isolation isn't simply the fact that a person wants to spend time alone. So please be aware of that. My younger daughter loves her alone time. I think a lot of us can relate to needing alone time, and especially for those of us who resonate with recharging when we have that time to ourselves. What we do want to look at is this person pulling away? Are they withdrawing? Are they acting differently than they normally would? We also want to pay attention that the most dangerous form of isolation is when an individual is surrounded by people and they don't feel as if they can be true about what they are experiencing, who they are, what their beliefs are. Now, imagine that this is a person who goes to school, goes to work, and maybe in that space, they can be a little bit of who they are, but not entirely. And imagine they go home to the people who are supposed to love them most, and they can't be themselves at all. Now, this can happen in public or at home. It can be either way, but we want to pay attention to the idea that we are surrounding ourselves with people who allow us to be who we are fully and completely. Isolation can be extremely dangerous. And as I said, most dangerous when we're surrounded by people, but we can't express what's going on. Now, when we talk about a shift in belief, what I'm talking about is the idea that I believe we're all born believing that this world is good and that we are perfect and that we are love. And as we move through life, we go through difficult situations and some of that starts to fade and we start to question, is this world really good? Is this life good? Am I good? Am I worthy? When we really want to pay attention and take notice is when we start to realize or we start to feel as if this life is never going to get better. It is always going to be difficult. The people around me would be better off without me. I would be better off dead than alive. When we start to believe that, first of all, it goes against our core beliefs that we are good. So we're out of alignment there. We'll talk more about that in another video. But when we couple that belief of feeling that others would be better off without us or that this will never get better, and we combine it with the isolation and the extreme distress, that is when someone is at the greatest risk for suicide. And this is where we take any means possible to intervene. And honestly, all we need to do is have a conversation. And even though this is what I do all day, every day, I can tell you that in February of 2021, I received a phone call. And my friend said, "Hey, Jenny, you taught me the three factors that put someone at the greatest risk for suicide, and I'm worried about you. I know you're going through distress with your divorce. I haven't heard from you in almost 2 weeks, which makes me think you're isolating yourself. So tell me, what do you believe?" Now, even though I love him dearly, this wasn't someone that I would have naturally reached out to say, I'm not okay. But because he created this safe space and he reached out to me in a way that I knew he understood without judgment, without fear, I could be honest. And I could tell him, I don't even think my children need me right now. And he said, do you want me to come over? And I said, no, not right now. And the reason was that he lived far away and it was late at night. But what he did in that moment was he said, okay, then I'm going to stay on the phone with you. And by doing that, he pulled me out of my isolation. He gave me a safe space to talk about what was going on, which alleviated some of my distress because I process externally. So being able to talk about what I was feeling in a safe space actually alleviated the burden I was carrying. Doing those two things brought me back to center, helping me to know I do matter. My children need me. My friends need me. So if you are around someone that you're concerned about, check in with them. Avoid saying what's wrong and simply say, hey, I'm checking in. You see, I've learned the 3 factors that put someone at the greatest risk for suicide, and I've noticed these things. Share with them what you're noticing. Let them know that you're a safe space and that you care.